Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here for my presentation. So the first slide here, the title you already have, it's based on my training. I was asked by my colleagues from acquisitions and interlibrary services to help them learn and be more aware when they work with music materials. So based on that training that I have conducted twice, the first time in 2019, pre-pandemic, when everyone was present, it was in-person training, and we had a lot of people coming in. I had physical examples of music scores of and variety of music formats. So this year, just a week ago, I was asked again, because we have new employees, to do the same training, and I thought maybe share my experiences and what I am doing in helping other non-music oriented people or non-music trained people when they deal with music cataloging. So why does do the training for that? Many academic libraries are unable to commit a full roster of library staff to handle multiple workflows required by a music library, including ordering, procurement, cataloging, and processing of music materials. Oftentimes, librarians must rely on support from library staff in other departments, who may have little to no music expertise. With such shortness of music expertise, how can we improve a workflow of music materials from acquisitions to the end user? I conducted a training session for acquisitions and interlibrary borrowing and lending staff on different formats of music scores and how to evaluate their catalog records. The session included examples of different types of scores and their catalog records in Mark 21 format. The goal of this training was to improve acquisitions and interlibrary services staff ability to place orders for the correct types of music scores and other related materials, and to evaluate the materials and receipts to match with the order records. Overall, the increased knowledge can save staff time and increase efficiency of the workflow from ordering to providing the end user with a requested item. So who needs the training? Actually, I think all library staff and library system staff that deal with music materials will benefit, but usually catalogers need more specialized training. While in reference services of a mid-large academic library within a large university system, we have centralized operations, including acquisitions, cataloging, processing, interlibrary lending and borrowing, and systems. That training is very useful for exposing and showing people the language, which is challenging also, the language of music vocabulary. So who needs the training? It was already there. We also have system limitations. System limitations and WordCat, where editions filters does not recognize the distinction of formats and manifestations. And interlibrary lending and borrowing platforms also do not distinguish manifestations or formats correctly. Like I will show the example of UTK interlibrary borrowing and lending service form. Discovery tools have replaced traditional catalogs and lack in the ability to apply filters and provide the granularity that is needed. So why is this training? Working with music materials presents, this stuff. Working with music materials presents a degree of higher complexity than working with book formats, and hence the challenges that come with it. To address them, we need to be teaching about differences in manifestations and formats of music work. We need to show the importance of an editor of a music work. There is a greater number of editors for a particular music work who are also instrumentalists, pedagogues, and because music is also subjective when it comes to interpretation. Also teaching the strategy of searching for generic titles of music works, titles describing just a genre or generic terms such as mazurkas, concerto, mass, etc. Let's see, a patron is coming and asking that she need to request a score for Beethoven's symphony. Which one? Also, rules of searching are strange, and library systems produce different results depending on library systems. For example, many libraries indexed the preferred titles of music works, but the title proper in Mark 245 field was and still is often non-indexed, especially true for older publications and older catalog records, which in the 245 field of Mark record have the first indicator chosen to no added entry. In these instances, especially for generic titles, mostly catalogers would know how to search for and find the needed bibliographic record. They know, for example, to search for a string quartet using plural form and apply filters accordingly needed and limitations and so on. There are also challenges searching for distinctive titles, especially for non-English languages titles, and dealing with search results that provide many bibliographic records also for non-English languages of cataloging, records describing the same manifestation, same edition, and so on. It does not help that there are so many records for the same manifestation, many of which are encoding cataloging level M for machine derived, confusing further staff searching for a matching bibliographic record. So we also encounter, that was my fault, sorry. We also encounter system limitations where WorldCat doesn't distinguish formats and manifestations. And I already said about interlibrary lending and about discovery tools lagging on granularity. So what happens if we do nothing? We may continue to see many challenges and pitfalls, like in these real-life examples I will show. On this slide, for example, an interested user wanted the concerto score version for 2 pianos, but we ordered the full conductor's score. Realizing the mistake soon after, we ordered the other score, and now our library owns both editions. I showed and highlighted also here on the slide, borrowed from my training for conducted last week, the information provided by the publisher, which is highlighted here and in yellow, and which is in French language, when the different description between these two editions, where the conductor's score is of much larger size and with so many more pages. And also there is a differences in the titles. The first record of French language of cataloging available at the time of placing order clearly says in French, réduction pour de 2 pianos. Therefore, this is a reduction for 2 pianos. Therefore, acquisitions people need training.
Wanda, this is Kevin.
Yes. Yes.
Can you do one favor for us? Can you click on the bottom of your screen? It says there's a sharing button.
Yes.
Can you click the hide link on there and make it go away? It's covering some of your slides, so we had a request.
Okay, yeah.
It says stop sharing, and it says hide.
I did that.
Oh, no. You clicked on...
I click on something wrong?
Right above that. Do you see it? It says
hide.
There we go. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was annoyed about that, but I didn't know what to do about it.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Sorry for the interruption.
So, no problem. Yeah. So, okay. So, the challenges that we did say. That slide was about the information provided from the Canadian French publisher, and it was all in French, and it was confusing what to order. So new employees in acquisitions department are often confused and come to me asking for help in searching for bibliographic records in OCLC connection. What are all these barcodes, UPC, ISMN, EAN, numbers, and publishers' vendors' websites? In this example, a colleague was copying and pasting the barcode number from a publisher's site into OCLC connection and searched for it in indexed ISBN numbers. This search didn't bring any results because the barcode wasn't the ISBN barcode number. Therefore, acquisitions people need training about unique identifiers of music scores and how to search for them in connection. I am also frequently asked for help in searching for the bibliographic records when publisher provides limited information, searching with generic titles, names of composers in non-English or not known preferred name form. On this slide, I want to acknowledge that this slide and next slide are courtesy of my dear colleague and music librarian in UTK School Music of Library, Natalie Christoph. These two slides are examples of her unpublished bibliographic instruction course. The bibliographic instruction is provided for students in music school, but there are valuable examples and instructions that would also benefit all staff dealing with music materials. So next slide shows the challenge of searching for title. An acquisition staff received a request to order a music score with a generic title. We must teach the strategy of searching in OCLC, WorldCat, and other library systems using filters and limit the results to improve relevancy and limit possibly very large recall. Very good example and challenging is, for example, Stravinsky's work titled The Rite of Spring. It was first published in France under the French title Sacré du Printemps, but the preferred title, and it is in Russian, is Wiesna Święcienna. So imagine that very few people know this work under the actually Russian title. This example, it shows the further confusing matter of Romanized transcription of non-Latin scripts, such as the Cyrillic here. An interested user wanted the music score with the provided plate number recorded in Mark 028 and was provided information about the title and edition. The search for plate number brought this bib record, but it was still confusing because the title, the statement of responsibility, plus edition information are all recorded here in Romanized transliterated from Russian Cyrillic. So finding this record needed further verification with someone familiar with the script and transliteration. For instances, as this one, I created templates in Ex Libris's Alma new metadata editor for creating a brief order records for music scores, for audio recordings, and for video recordings. Thankfully, nowadays, it is so much easier to copy text in a script and or language from the internet site and paste that information in a brief order record. The challenge of working with this publication is in recognizing what is in the title. Composer's name doesn't look familiar, transliteration which starts with C.H. Tchaikovsky, and information about the specific information about manifestation. So verify what to order before the wrong thing is ordered. It's always an extra step that people in acquisitions need to do. Another challenges are limitations on discovery platform, for example, of Ex Libris Primo VE. A user saw a call number for a high voice score by chance in Primo VE in a browse search for LC call number, and was interested in ordering edition for low voice. Results of this search indicated that library owns only edition for high voice. The other two OCLC call numbers, one for medium voice and the other for low voice, are not displayed here. And that's the second music work titled Wir Lieder Opus 27 by Richard Strauss, and the call number with the signifier that this edition is for high voice. But our library owns all three editions. Displayed on this slide are results of searching with the LC call number in Alma's new metadata editor, browse shelf listing. Clearly, we can see all three call numbers indicating the voice ranges, high, medium, and low voice. Voice range terms, in addition to that, in the bibliographic description, are transcribed in German language in a text in Mark to 50 field, where for high voice it's 4 hochte Singstimme, and for the medium voice 4 mittlere Singstimme. So we have these limitations that are challenging for people who are not trained like music catalogers are. Searching in bibliographic record in WordCat is helpful, but also it may be confusing. So when all collated formats are there in one place, when by mistake order music score instead of electronic version instead of print publication, or audio recording instead of printed music. And the aim of this training was to let people be aware about unique attributes of music materials, staff to be aware about importance of description and detailed description, importance about recorded instruments and voices, about being aware about whether the work was composed or arranged, and whether it's for piano solo or violin solo without accompaniment or with accompaniment. All this detailed focused recorded information is crucial in identifying records to use for ordering the material for local libraries. We have also some pitfalls and challenges that people in processing encounter. A user needed to borrow music parts for performance. We have a procedure for putting parts in pocket. Preservation processing staff pen bands softcover scores and puts pocket for parts. So parts sheet music can be removed to be able to be put on a music stand. User, however, received parts all bound together. Well, parts were sent back to preservation processing department for separating them back. The mistake was corrected, but the lost time of waiting for the parts by the user and the cost of redoing the pen banding could have been avoided. So this is a real example how library systems sometimes failed us. This is a screenshot of the UTK interlibrary lending and borrowing form. And in the bottom here, there is a question: will you accept an alternate edition of this item? And most of the times, this is preset as yes, or people not knowing exactly may manually say yes, or interlibrary services may click it as yes. So in this scenario, an intention was to order print score, vocal score for the opera, but we received an audio recording instead. Here on this slide are two examples of the results for the same search done in WordCat and another in Stanford Library's Search Works catalog. A search using keyword search, and I just put Beethoven piano concerto score, where results were also limited only for music scores. Stanford Library's system displayed records with facets to choose from 29 genre terms for this search results, while WordCat limited search blue checked boxes on top provides the choice for downloadable music score and for manuscript music scores. But the results also include records for other formats such as LPs, books, DVDs, mixing all formats and especially not distinguishing yet between genre. Therefore, staffing library systems need the training, and although systems are constantly improving, we have a long journey to provide more granularity, distinguishing between manifestation, formats, and editions especially. So I just got next screen. So what are the pitfalls if we do nothing? Ordering rock music score takes time to reorder and purchase, makes a decision whether vendor or publisher takes mistaken order back or we forced to keep it or wants to keep it. The workflow of ordering and receiving is disrupted and extra time is needed to solve the problem. And sometimes it is difficult or not worth the time and money to return the item back to the vendor. So the library suffers the consequences of it, such as accepting an item not desired or accepting a duplicated copy of an item already owned by the library. So on the following scores, I will just share I will share all slides from my training conducted a week ago, but I will briefly and quickly go through them to show how in pandemic time, without being in person at the training and without having items at hand, I try to teach people about different notated music formats and editions and such. So this is where my presentation started. It was done last February in 2022, which I started with introducing nouns or introducing terms, which are appropriate terms that are recorded in bibliographic record. They are formats of notated music. Catalogers have access to RDA tools and all other tools that are under our fingertips, but people in other departments usually do not use these tools and they are not familiar with accessing and learning when they are confused about terminology. So my presentation started with definitions taken from RDA Toolkit Glossary. And it was in an order of that first slide of the accepted terms for notated format music. And definitions were then followed with showing how notated music looks, that what is the staff, and that staff may have sometimes some numbers on it and tablature of guitar. So just to familiarize with them with non-text material as printed staff notation. And I presented identifiers, plate numbers recorded in Mark 21 records, explaining what is UPC, ISMN, EAN, and call numbers, and how to search for them, and what MARC field records are used to record this information. I also presented that we can limit, especially searching vague general terms by format. And doing that, we excluding bringing, and we all know that we excluding, but they don't, we excluding bringing the recall also for other formats like books, DVDs, and audio recordings. So did I mention in my presentation for MOUG, this is when my colleague came and said there is no record in OCLC for this barcode, which wasn't ISBN. But when we did search it in correct index for standard number, it did produce 9 records. And I explained, yellow highlighted to my colleagues that they're gonna see records in not only in English language of cataloging agencies, but in this example, they saw the first 2 in Danish and then in German. And I did say about choosing the best record is looking for the quality of matching bibliographic record. And also when they see held, it's a signifier that our library owns it. And letter D, which is the symbol of the Library of Congress, signifies that Library of Congress originated that bibliographic record. We can further teach them about the strategy, how to search for plate number or publisher number. In the first strategy, they can use command line search if they know how to use commands, but it's very easy now to just from pull down menu, choose publisher number and search for the same plate number MM304 as a second strategy. Both strategies bring the same results, no difference. But if we further have more information about known publisher name, the same search from previous slide I showed to people, if they add publisher name in publisher index for publishers' names, they would only retrieve one very accurate, precise, and relevant record. I also introduced, and my intention is to introduce them about the challenges of languages, of barriers, of language barriers, where edition statements are not only English language, but they are also in Russian, German, French, etc. So this vocabulary from Yale University Library, I love the website too, and introducing them what they can see in the MARC 250 field and signifying this is an edition. And if we are interested in Izdanie Pierwoje Klavier, which means the first edition for piano, we should be ordering that. And another thing is about edition for voice range, high voice, for example. It's not always showing in bibliographic record. So I explained that if it's a part of the title, grammatically linked to a title or subtitle, it will not necessarily be recorded in 250 MARC field, but only in 245. And I did presented them the description, and it is limited. They are not catalogers. So I emphasize they may see in 300 field, described one score, two scores, scoring 4 volumes, and what the difference is and why they see this. And importance for emphasizing is interested user, if we need the score and parts, we should be ordering score and parts, not parts only. And then if we ordering a performance score and the subfield V in subject heading, that may be confusing for non-catalogers, is saying 2 piano scores. So why in one 300 we have written 2 scores, and in the other 300 down the last example, it's 1 score, which I explained that we do have the concertos for 2 pianos, and performing from 1 score when concerto is for 2 pianos would be impossible. So even if we receive an order 1 score, we need to reorder the other one to have 2 copies. And then second subject heading is concertos piano, which means it's just for 1 instrument, solo, piano. And then the piano scores means that it's reduced to the all orchestral part in 1 staff notated in music. And then I went into the examples that I had physical examples of in 2019, when I did screenshots of cover and try to, whenever I had a room for, put also the definitions of it. An example of the title in 245, in 260 or 264, publisher information, date, copyright, what have you, and 300 description, physical description. So we went on with, in the order of the terms for notated music from the first slide, when I introduced choral music, and it may be choral music, but it's also a study score. And what is the chorus score? An example of the notated staff music screenshot here. We could order condensed orchestra score with solo piano, and all orchestra part, they can see it visibly here. The first line of 2 on the staff, 2 staffs, 1 staff, orchestra line in the first one, and then piano solo in the second one. and a description. And then interesting, I brought as an examples physical items in 219. This time I just have screenshots of covers to emphasizing that the difference and one of the attributes of music music publications and music manifestations is that the same music work may have different manifestations. So the first example, and I did run a Vivaldi's preferred title and several next slides after this one, telling them first off, the preferred title is in Italian language. And this music score is for 4 seasons, which we know this is English title. And this is on top of it, full score. When I did on the right show that all parts for solo violin and principal violin, and then the violin strings 1, 2, viola, and basso are all in vertical order in the score. So it has all the parts recorded. Then we have the same music manifestation, not manifestation, we have the same preferred title, and all 4 concertos. But this publication, it says on the cover partitura, which in Italian means score, full score. So partitura, partiture, and recorded in 250 edition, which is important to be aware about it, that we want to order this full score of the same 4 seasons by Vivaldi or concertos. But this one, it's different and it's small in size, and it has the description study score. What is the study score? They do have a definition, and one good way to use this tool is that it's keyword searchable. So when they have electronic version of my guide, they can click in the term study score, find the definition, go to the next find, and that will bring them examples, and they can look at it and be more comfortable with the terminology, with the language, and with what they are ordering. And I did say that we have miniature score and study score, and these are not necessarily equivalent. Some publishers do think so, but miniature scores, it's mostly the size of the publication, not larger than 23 centimeters, and a miniature score may be a study score. And it is study score, we cannot perform from it. But study score may be in octavo size, it may be 28, 31 centimeters. And the same music work of Vivaldi, 4 seasons, and here we ordered only parts, and definition of a part, an example of violin part, an example of notated music for the first violin, only 1 staff lines for all the music transcribed in here, and in the description 5 parts. So it's not 1 score plus 5 parts. Another example of study score that I did show, 19 centimeters. This one shows the whole orchestration and the piano solo in the lowest staff in the notated music. And the full score doesn't mean it's a large work, it's a big work or big volume, and it has a lot of parts. So I did show them just the work for the string trio and showed them the screenshot of the of the cover, and then the first page of notated music for full score, and then these 3 parts that are all loose, and they will be put in pocket, and each part has always a written information what instrument this individual part is going to be needed for: violin, viola, and cello, plus in a description. And it's important to pay attention for them is to look at it and say, we were ordering 1 score plus 3 parts. So we cannot be missing these 3 parts when items that we've ordered arrived. And these challenges show about dealing and having barriers with French language. And I already did show in my MOOC presentation, these are the screenshots from the ALMA brief displaying 2 order records here. And 1 order is for the, by mistake, ordered conductor score, and the other is one for the reduction for 2 pianos. And I did show them for MOOC for MOUG previously, the same slide that it's here, and emphasizing that conductor score, we almost never, I don't think we ordering for our library. Conductor score is of very large size, and we have Knoxville Symphony Orchestra that has all conductor score and all these parts for performing. But for music score in our library, we are focusing very often on solo part with piano accompaniment, reduced size, orchestra size, or chamber music, especially for performance. So an example of other quatrième, the fourth concerto score reduction for 2 pianos. Original work was for piano and orchestra, but this one, an example of notated music, it has only 2 staffs and not the all orchestration in vertical order that it's so full on the page. And we come to show this earlier mentioned edition for high voice and piano. That mainly I try to explain the difference between vocal score and what's not being a vocal score, but also being careful about and watchful for all these terms that are important, that are different, and differentiate one edition from the other. And on this example, the part of the edition statement, low, signifies this is an edition for low voice. And it might be a cataloger's judgment. It was decided that this is edition statement that belongs in 250, but in 245 we have only Ariete Oubliée for voice and piano. And then vocal score, and an example, and West Side Story, everybody knows. So I did those screenshot of the vocal score cover, or was that title page, and then an example of the aria sang by Tony, Something's Coming, and an example of the vocal part for Tony in first staff, and then in the second staff, accompaniment for piano. And out of curiosity, I had never worked with table book. I did show them, and I found the image on Google, Googling for it, but the definition of it and what it is. And it's very interesting, actually. So ordering is also detail-oriented. And this is the bibliographic record, and I think I have these slides displayed. In bibliographic record, one describes one score, and the other describes one score plus 5 parts. And what we have ordered, it was one score, 42 pages. What landed on my desk was one score plus 5 parts. So I needed to clarify whether we intended to order one score and 5 parts or full score. But what happened is I found out we already own in the library one score with 5 parts. So we duplicated the order of something that we already owned. So in conclusion, why does non-music library staff need basic music training? Staff in acquisitions and in the library services became familiar with music terms, with variety of formats of notated music, and importance of editions, editors' names, paying detailed attention what the description of music works provides and what interested end user really wants. And what are the expected outcomes of it from my training in 2019? People who went through that training already improved the efficiency of the workflow from ordering, receiving to providing an end user with required item. And the last week training was the aim to retrain people from to be more familiar with the genre, with the jargon, with terminology, and with formats and editions, and also for especially for new hired employees. Provided training guide in electronic format is easy to use and navigate to see the examples that they would like to refer to. So resources used, and thank you. And if you have any questions.